Here we go. Awesome. Uh, enter my name. Great. And let's see. Let me, I'll share my screen as well. Desktop to agenda. There we go. Share. Okay, great. Ah, okay. So, yep, the agenda is open. One thing I wanted to let me just add it to the top. Um, I wanted to kind of set the expectation for um, spec API ballot process and TCK. Because there's probably there's always questions about this, and it always changes every release as we make improvements. Um, but if you've been to any of the platform calls, you probably have heard me say that this is like the first time that we're, as a community, developing changes for EE. You were actually changing the spec APIs for this release, and it changes things a lot, I think, for TCK. And I just wanted to kind of share my view that um, TCKs will freeze as let's see, I'll say standalone. TCKs will freeze as the spec API project goes final for EE10. Um, and I and what I mean there is we can make TCK changes for the spec project. The spec project can make the TCK changes, whatever. Um, it's when the spec project goes final that the TCK should then be frozen, um, except if there are further spec changes, then the TCKs can change. But we're kind of in the point where we're just about to start seeing um, spec APIs start trying to finish up. Um, and that's kind of where we're at with from a TCK point of view. So we kind of need to um, um, for the platform TCK generated TCKs, we need to kind of you know prepare with final documentation changes that we might want to make for particular standalone TCKs, and whatever script changes or whatever is needed to build it. And yeah, so I don't know if that's news to anyone here, but I wanted to kind of mention that. Um, so, yep. Let's see. Okay. Um, Also, let's see. We have a pull request to start um, referencing the staged spec APIs, um, and I think that's a good thing to transition over to. And as mentioned on the TCK list a few hours ago, or last night or this morning, um, um, there, I think there's a JSON B test being added that isn't yet passing with Jason, I'm pronouncing it right. Um, and that was an interesting case because it kind of highlights that we are developing still as we go here, and it's okay to add tests that we aren't necessarily passing yet, but those tests have to pass by the time the spec APIs do complete their the ballot process, if you will. Um, and um, so yep. Um, I don't. Let's see. So just to, remind everyone else is on mute. Just to let you know, it's okay to speak up if anyone wants to. But just as a reminder, I noticed everyone else is on mute. Um, so does anyone have anything to share about either of these two topics?
Like for standalone TCKs, we are projecting that we need to integrate with the spec APIs, jars, and build the standalone TCK. But currently, the process for standalone TCK is that we use Glassfish and build standalone TCKs. So once they are integrated to Glassfish, and we pick up the latest Glassfish, then only standalone TCKs build and runs with the latest spec APIs will happen. Should we make changes to build standalone TCKs directly downloading the spec API jars and start working on that instead of relying on Glassfish?
Um, let
And second item related to the PR which you were mentioning, which had failed tests. Uh, it was a kind of backporting PR, where the tests which has already been migrated to JSON B is backported to platform TCK. So for current Jakarta E10 release, are we planning to retain those tests in JSON B because JSON B is fully migrated? Should we remove those tests of JSON B? That's my other question.
So let me just and everyone has permissions, but everyone's welcome to to take minutes, and let me just add these 2 points. Should we remove JSONB test from platform TCK just as an example? Yeah, um, or for any technology. So I think I so I think my opinion on on the any remaining platform dependent TCK dependencies on Glassfish in terms of of getting the spec API jars from Glassfish. Um, um, in my opinion, yes, we should stop relying on Glassfish to supply spec APIs. Um, the um, in the platform TCK, the Docker POM XML POM um, um, gets many of the spec API artifacts, and I think we should we should complete that. We should we should not use the glassfish jars. We should use the pure spec APIs, um, and that to me that is realizing the goal of not treating glassfish as the reference implementation. Um, I think it's okay that we still have glassfish um, scripts in the platform TCK, and um, um, it's you know those files haven't been moved elsewhere yet. I've encouraged um, um, them to be moved by others. I think the Glassfish team, and I think we moved we've copied all of the jobs to the Glassfish CI, but there is. Um, yeah, I don't think the Glassfish CI necessarily has enough resources to run um, the jobs in their current form. But anyways, so there are some, other things that are, there are some other Glassfish use in the platform TCK, and um, in the interest of, finishing EE10, I think it's okay to not worry about those other things. But yeah, does anyone else have an opinion on that? Is anyone against yeah, switching from glassfish using glassfish jars to using the pure spec API jars in the platform TCK?
This is for the standalone TCK builds. Platform TCK, I guess you have already, Alvin, and you have already made changes to use the spec APIs, jars.
Okay, so okay, that in standalone TCK. Okay, I thought we had done that, but okay. So um, so I'm just gonna note that um, um, no one spoke for keeping the standalone TCK dependency glass on glassfish for building um, keeping this spec API dependencies on glassfish for building standalone TCKs. Okay. Um, so we can switch to use proper spec API artifacts for building standalone TCKs. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. Um, let's see. And the other question, should we remove? So for cases like JSON-B um, um, and or oh, or JBatch, uh, or, yeah, Jakarta. Oops. There's many examples. Um, um, and the case with JSON-B is, are they ready to run? Is JSON-B ready to run all of the full platform equivalent of the JSON-B test? Is one question. Um, um, so can JSON-B tests um, from JSON? That's it. Sorry. Spec. Can the JSON-B spec API TCK run on platform? Run on run against the EE platform. Um, and um, if if the answer is no to with regard to the spec level TCK, Um, the other question would be, is it important for JSON-B to be able to run against the EE platform containers? And um, um, there's, you know, I'm not sure that we understand the answer to that question yet. But I think that's, let's just say hypothetically that if we still, if we still need the platform level testing to run against the EE containers because the spec API project didn't complete at its support for running against EE containers. Um, I think what we're left with on the platform side is a choice between either integrate with, like, come up with a way to run to handle running like the JSON-B test against the EE containers, or keep the TCK, in which case the merge in the backport of that test, or any tests added would make sense. Um,
Can I jump in there, Scott? With
yes,
my
yes.
so so here's my confusion from the stats perspective. So I got to say I don't mean to stop and uh, get a whole education here, but I have to admit I'm a little confused at the basic heading here, generate TCKs. I think you might be saying that's a way of taking the single Jakarta platform TCK source project and generating separate binaries or images for the different spec APIs, as opposed to batch, which has an entirely separate source
Yeah,
repo.
yeah. Let's make this a top level item. I think that's less confusing.
But I mean, is that what you mean by generate standalone TCKs? Because that
So,
sounds
by generate, TCKs, which in the case of batch, it's things are a little bit different now. But in the case of JSON-B and persistence and servlet and other ones, the when we have a script in the platform TCK to generate the standalone TCKs, and we generate the documentation. We generate a archive that can be downloaded that contains the documentation and all the
yeah.
TCK tests and all that, and um, that's for standalone only. But we also run those tests against the platform, um, containers, if you will, in the proper platform TCK as that we also generate, as opposed to the standalone TCKs. So where we are currently, just to
So that's
yeah.
yeah. So I probably just need a little terminology help because this is like a standalone output or artifact of that single Jakarta TCK source project repo, whereas something like the batch is an entirely separate source.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just wanted to give it, I wanted to throw it on the agenda since you're here, and I just moved it to its own agenda item. So let's keep, we'll do batch separately because it, deserves its own item. But the, so on the JSON-B, the aspect I was getting to is, and I'll add in another one would be like, Jax RS, or, REST. Um, and the point I was getting to is we don't really know if the spec level TCKs will complete. for EE10, or if we need both, if we need to keep tests in both. And that was what I was, getting to. And in the case of the JSON-B new tests that have been added only to the spec that are being backported to the platform TCK, those are only needed if the JAX-B spec TCK doesn't complete its work. Like if it doesn't support running against the container, the EE containers, and we determine that's a necessary thing. So, um, sorry, girl, that was so long, but does that answer your question?
Uh, yeah, yeah. But if it is completed, if the migration is completed, uh, then are we ready for removal?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. If it's completed in the sense that everything that is needed is in the spec API, um, and that includes running on against EE containers if that's needed. Um, and I think it's needed for JSON-B, but I don't think we understand. I saw a few comments that said, yes, we do need that, and then no, we don't need that, and so it's not clear. But
So if we remove those tests, how we have to integrate those tests back to run the platform TCK, right?
no,
So
no. I think I think we talked about doing that, but we don't have to do that. In fact, we don't we don't really have the ability to do that yet, because we're not really expecting to complete the Maven integration. At least that's how I thought of it. I mean, anything's possible with Ant, of course, but do we really want to build that in with the current? Do we really want to build on top of the current infrastructure when we want to refactor? You know, and
if refactoring, since we are not planning to complete refactoring in Jakarta 10, so we will have multiple bundles. Say when a vendor runs platform TCK, he needs to run the platform TCK bundle. Then he needs to run the JSON uh, B bundle, then JAX-RS bundle, which have been migrated completely, assuming they have been migrated completely, and tests have been removed in the platform TCK.
yeah, the removing of the test is something we can do, and it's almost like the easiest part of it. I think it's always easy to remove. It's not always easy removing things, but it's easy. I think it's one of the easier things to do because it doesn't. We don't have time constraints. Like we can do that late in the release. It's just a platform TCK impact and thing only. It doesn't impact the standalone specs is what I mean. But anyway, it doesn't matter whether
Yeah,
easy or hard, but
yeah.
it's not
We
just.
can revisit the removal part later. Now the question lies: should we have a porting kit or the scripts to run these migrated scripts with the platform TCK? I guess yes. The answer will be yes, because uh, we need to run the tests which have been migrated from the Jakarta ATCK repository to other API repositories. So we will have a porting kit or a script to run these. Should we go approach in a bash script manner, or should we have a Maven runs so that we can directly run the download the TC? If we have a Maven approach, can directly download the TCKs from central repository and run them against Glassfish.
So we're okay. So let me just get the question. Um, um, yeah, can you yeah, so can you fill write your question down? I just added an entry after Jakarta batch. I just want to um, um, yeah, before we go to that, could you do that, Guru? While we
Okay, okay. You want
I
me to?
I just want to give Scott a chance to um, share what he what he has to what he was mentioning before about the batch, and I just want to see if there's anything we want to cover there for the for Jakarta batch as well. And but if you could just enter in the question I
Yeah,
after.
sure. I will do
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
So Scott, w- was there more to what you?
So, well, okay, so the terminology thing, that was kind of a minor point, but let me just get to the one of my questions. You'll see where I'm coming from, what my confusion is. So, say we have the question of, can we remove the batch test from the platform TCK? So my challenge here, thinking about this, from a technical perspective, we know we can run the the batch test. So batch has a separately sourced batch underscore TCK repo and the E for J Gailborg. And we've basically forked and duplicated the tests, for a long time, going back to 1.0 in 2013,
Mhm.
and had minor, like, kind of find replace changes in the original CTS, which are still there in the TCK project. So my challenge is the tests can certainly run in EE against EE with the help of our Killian runners. It's easy enough to differentiate a subset for EE versus non-EE. The problem I have is, what is the process around an individual spec declaring compliance in EE or outside of EE? I mean, I haven't seen that part of the Jakarta process. I feel like it's written up as, you are declaring compatibility, you're certifying compatibility with the spec. I don't see a part of the process, and maybe I'm just not familiar with it, where an individual spec makes a statement about compatibility with the platform, or EE compatibility versus SE compatibility. That part of the process is what I'm missing.
Sure. So yeah, it's um, it when okay, so let me just let me add that as a so when batch spec goes final for EE10, um, what TCKs have to pass. So I make um, and the the stand. I'll use the term. So the Java SE, because it doesn't really make sense to call it standalone anymore in with the terms we're using now. The Java SE TCK batch TCK tests, must pass 100%. What about the Jakarta? Almost said Java E. What about the Jakarta EE? Jakarta EE. I love typos. TCK tests. Um, and so um, let let let's say hypothetically that when the batch spec API wants to release final, that um, um, it's it's in theory possible to run those tests, um, but um, um, it's not
Yeah,
it's not necessarily going to
so,
work very well because there's still EE um, 10 features that aren't complete yet. It's like, it's the platform doesn't complete until everything's done kind of thing. So you can't, you can't expect it to, like you can't expect that there
yeah,
won't be
I don't,
problems.
I don't think that type of concern is one we realistically have because, like our integration with the platform, our big integration now is basically catching up with like CDI 1.1 or 1.2. So it's not like we have a chicken and egg problem with respect to other specs that are being updated in EE10. It's just that, like one answer to my question would be to say that the the spec, the batch spec, is only responsible for certifying compliance in an SE environment, and the platform TCK project kind of owns anything that's said or certified at like a EE platform level. And just like you can generate a standalone TCK from within the project, you can also go pull these batch TCK artifacts from Maven and kind of run them that way. But the difference is that the process and the declaration of certification is kind of owned by the platform TCK project. So I'm not saying that's the best way, but I feel like this is a process question, not a technical question. I mean, pulling Maven dependencies is easy.
It's a great question. So I stopped writing it, and I shouldn't have. I should. So I'll just say, does the platform own running the batch? I should say own passing the batch TCK on against EE10, or does batch spec own that? And it's a good question to raise, and I think in the case of batch, um, since EE10, I'm sorry, since and EE9 or 9.1 server could pass the batch test. Um, Batch could, I should say, batch spec could own that testing. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, from a technical perspective, it definitely could. I think
Okay.
the process could just be said, could be written as to reach compliance, go see the batch TCK and follow their process or something like that. That could be like a reference. So it's not technically, I think it's kind of easy. But yeah, I mean,
process.
as far as I know, there's no concept that an individual spec declares compliance in EE or SE. It's just compliance.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you my view on this. My view is The reason why we sought out to refactor the TCKs from the platform TCK into the standalone specs is to simplify the release process and to eliminate the dependency that specs have on the platform TCK. Like especially there are certain ones that couldn't release until very late because they needed to wait until the platform TCK was done. And it created other chicken and egg issues, which, we solved with by, just getting the work done basically. But um, it's still a good question, but I think the purpose was so that the spec could own the process. Um, but I think it also, it can also introduce chicken and egg issues that we haven't really figured out yet. What we want to do, like what I was alluding to before. If batch depended on I don't know, let's say a new um, you know container feature, um, like let's say config was added to EE10 or will be added to EE10, and batch had a test for that, and you know
Mhm.
that would be like an example of a chicken and egg. You'd need an EE10 implementation that contains that the Jakarta configurations support in order to be able to run that test. Um, so yeah, that would just be an example of where you couldn't, you'd would there be, there would be some um, extra. I guess it would have to be done in either in a separate phase or that would have to be worked out. But that's not the case now. So I think in the case of batch, you're okay to run the platform level testing as well. And I think I think that's how it should be done, so that you don't rely on the platform level team to do to be involved in your release of the spec. Um, and I think ideally that's how it all should be done. But I'm gonna
Okay.
leave it a note that I have that I should follow up. Um, um,
And
yeah.
then, I mean, another corollary of that thinking is that to certify against the platform, you would, you would go run the batch TCK in EE mode, right? There's no additional requirement to, and maybe this is already covered by your bullet there. I'm just reiterating.
Mhm.
So I mean, assuming we can work that out, then yeah, the question, can we remove the batch tests? I think would be yes. And then besides the runtime test, there's also the signature test. And I think there we should probably, I mean, we could imagine like ways to be more common with exactly how the platform TCK project is doing signature tests versus going off in our own direction. Just a little bit more like the exact sig test jar used, but maybe that. I mean, I'm not too worried about that. I'm sure we can work that out, and I think we could end up then without anything batch needed in the platform TCK. That seems to make sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think with signature testing too, when we all switch to Maven, or when we catch up on the platform TCK side, um, then it'll be more obvious which artifact we actually use. Where it's
Mhm.
it happens to be the latest. Um, it's what do you call it? What's the let me get the I'll get the link for the SIG test. Um, well, I guess I don't need to get the link right now, but sorry, I just had a senior moment. Um, but anyways, the latest, we can make sure we all use the same, signature test artifact. Um, that's that's no problem there. Um, and that's something that's going to get easier. And we found like for the Jack Speed TCK, Guru helped get that going. Um, there was a little bit of work um, um, to sync up with the changes we had made for the platform TCK, and it'll get easier. Yeah, I think we can discuss that offline.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
so let me just say my one other concern in this whole process is that it is the common setup from the platform certification perspective. So, if someone who is responsible for certifying their implementation against the entire platform, would view the need to now set up something like an Archillian configuration for their environment, if they would view that as a step backwards, from the legacy of running batch as part of CTS, and more recently the platform TCK, then that I still think we're ending up in a better place by making the switch, but it would seem like that role should be polled for their opinion, and maybe we've already done that. But it's sort of a step back in terms of common setup potentially. I did try to reach out to the IBM people responsible, and I got the sense that there was already, maybe not for batch especially, but already kind of a need to do component specific setup even when running like the CTS type of platform TCK. So maybe this really wasn't a giant step backwards, but I'm just kind of mentioning the concern. With Archillian being a well-known thing, even though some people have questioned its use, it's not like going out on a completely unique one-off direction. So maybe that's okay.
yep. Um,
And maybe
uh,
we've talked about this already, because I know this is the first call I joined.
no, I don't think so. And we really, someone that responsible for the EE10 implementation needs to do final testing of, you know, um, of everything, including batch and, um, um, so, so um, if, that, um, let's say, um, the test effort uh, would be easier um, um, if the batch TCK running was, um, if the batch TCK configuration, Archillian runner configuration was shared. In case it was a different person, um, who's setting it up. So yeah, I think that'd be a good point. But all right, hey, let's continue that on the keep talking on the mailing list. Let's just give Guru a chance to let's just see what his question was. Let's see. So see, standalone TCK migrated to API repository, which are ready to run with platform TCK. Should we have Glassfish port and scripts which are Bash or Maven based for platform TCK runs? So we can, yeah, okay, so uh, should we, so should we, use, Bash or Maven? I guess, so this applies to the question I just asked about for batch as well. Um, um, in the case of batch, I'm not sure which EE um, 10 implementation batch would be using, but it may not. Yeah, not sure that it. Well, it does matter, but anyways, um, questions about glassfish. So yeah, um, I yeah, I'm just going to throw in that for Wildfly and Open Liberty and all the other implementations, I guess we could have common scripts, but we haven't really created those yet. Um, but in the case of Glassfish, it doesn't really matter whether Glassfish is using Maven or Bash. Um, um, so like it depends on who it depends on who it volunteers to do the work, I guess. So Guru, is that something you'll be doing?
Yeah, I can check about it, but I'm not so sure without discussing with the at the community level if I can directly jump on the
you
implementation.
you you
Like, see, whatever we do to run the migrated TCK, it will be heavily dependent on the application server. We might have some, if I say zero in on Maven based approach, then I will have POM file, XML file where I will be specifying the dependency. And also I will be telling which Arculen container I need to use. So that there I will have a application specific dependency coming into picture. So that's my question. Should we
okay?
go for Bash? Bash means we need to redo all the work, like starting of the server, configuring the server, and um, other configuration which we have been doing. Currently, we try to get away with that. We're using Aquilane-based containers. So should we use Maven plus Aquilane?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to use Maven with Archillion for running batch. For running it again. Yeah, for running against Glassfish, assumingly is what we're looking to do, and that's fine. Yeah, that's yeah. We can use Maven. We just don't need to integrate Maven with Ant. It would just kind of be like I think it would just be like a standalone Maven, Palm, not like what we're doing in the refactored branch. Um, so and you can use,
So this,
you can use a script as well. I mean, it can be like a bash script that does some things and then invokes Maven. I mean, just the
yeah.
same as we've done before. I think um, is fine. Just
Okay,
that,
and we have profile-based runs in the platform TCK. How to handle the migrated TCK TCK artifacts with profile-based runs? Like I have web profile run and I have a full profile run. So there I see some issues. We can make use of JUnit tags for web or full profile. That needs to be investigated. So I thought community will have more suggestions on these. And also we have a concept called vehicle, like EJB or servlet, where we define a vehicle based on that test cases are run. So how to handle these in a migrated TCK scenario? That's another point. And third point is we have many keywords to choose the test runs. Like we have keywords for Jakarta EE, we have keyword called web profile, we have keyword to dissociate optional technologies. How to handle those in a migrated TCK, which we don't have any control at all currently. And also we have the logging of the migrated TCK. Should we integrate that logging with platform TCK run, or it should be kept as separate? Like, how do we specify those configurations?
Um, I'm just going to say a no. Um, in my opinion, no, because that's like the easiest question you asked. Let's see.
Okay.
Um,
It might not be logging, it might be configuration, like database configuration. We create so many tables during initial setup. If a TCK happens to be or multiple TCK has multiple configuration, how do we align that with platform TCK runs? We need to write more porting scripts, or will the spec team help us in that?
okay, so let's see. So I guess so in terms of profiles, which is really, it varies on the EE implementation, but Glassfish has a separate web profile code base and full profile, I think, from what I recall. Um, Whereas I think other app servers just have a different configuration that kind of pulls, the different profiles together. It's not so, it's not so much a different code base, if you will, as it is with Glassfish. But so I guess, does the um, um, spec TCK support a web profile or only a full platform? Um, and um, um, I think that, so I'd say map the um, um, the platform. Let's see. You know, I'd say pass the spec TCK parameters for um, web um, web profile, full platform if they exist. Um, otherwise, otherwise it's full platform only, right? Um, and
Yeah, so the migrated TCK should classify the test as web and full profile, or any profile which comes in Jakarta E10 new profile. So that we can just invoke by providing some options. That should be taken care by the migrated TCK.
yeah, in the case of CDI, there's there's different, there's a way to specify web profile versus full platform. Um, And in the case of CDI, that's needed. If the TCK only supports full platform, there's really no question. So real, so I mean that should be.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
straightforward then.
it's important that we figure, that like when the spec goes to ballot, that we say it's not ready yet. Like if it needs to have a web profile parameter, but it doesn't, we kind of, it'll kind of be, that's something that we'll have to help um, um, give guidance on. Um, you know,
But the problem is the standalone TCKs currently don't have that concept of or they have, but we don't test the standalone TCKs in context of web profile. Uh,
but
uh,
but do they need it? Do they
yeah, but they are needed.
they will need it? Okay. Um, well, you say they need it because that's how glassfish, because of glassfish, or because of a spec requirement?
Yeah, actually, because since we are migrating these tests, since these tests were already part of platform TCK, and now we are migrating into a separate TCK. So they were already running as either full or web profile when they were part of platform TCK. So when we are separating it, and now we want to run it for the platform run, we would need that parameter also for the standalone TCKs.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I'm just saying, if like are these are there parts of the tests that are different on web profile versus full platform that or like is this like a keywords kind of thing where where you want to enable or disable certain tests, or on web profile because you want to run fewer tests, or is it exactly the same as full platform?
Right. Currently for platform, they are just a keyword, and we pick for a web profile, we have less number of tests for the entire platform TCK. And for full profile, we have more tests. So they are handled by using a keyword in the current platform TCK. So we will have to use a similar approach in the separated TCK also. So these things need to be implemented in the separated or the migrated TCK. So
Oh,
that's what, yeah.
only if only if if that applies though, right? Because we don't have keywords like for like I'm just going to take a quick look at batch, like for the batch TCK. Let's see, looking at harness keywords properties. Let's see. Let's see. So for okay, so in keywords, I just see um, we have one entry for JBatch, Java EE. So it's just there are no options needed for batch. Um, in the case of JAX RS, there are some. Okay, we do have um, um, some tests that are optional for the web profile. So yeah, so um, I guess so. I think that means that JAX RS TCK isn't done until it has options for those keywords. I guess, right? I mean,
Yes, correct,
it's not support of those keywords necessarily, but
correct,
add that. So that's I guess that's the answer there. Um,
correct, got it. Yeah,
okay,
it depends. For some of the TCKs, it is required. For JBatch, we don't need that. Correct.
okay, good. Okay, so
So all the spec teams should be aware of these profiles and optional uh, uh, rest of the keywords which we have in our platform TCK.
Yeah, but I don't. Do we have so many migration TCKs currently?
I don't think so. I mean,
Other, yeah, right?
there's JSON B, which wants to have their own TCK. From what Lucas was saying, there's um, but I don't know if they're going. Yeah, I don't know which ones are going to really complete. Um, you know,
But I saw a issue regarding connector. The team has raised an issue in Jakarta TCK repo, telling that they need help in running the tests, migrated tests, or something like that. So the problem is, if the specs are aware beforehand, and if they can implement, it will be helpful for us, instead of in the end we going back and telling them if
yes,
uh,
yeah, 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 yeah. It great point about the yeah the parameters being needed and to communicate that. It kind of got overlooked, I think, in up to now. So yeah, these are great things to raise. Did we?
or we can add to the guide which you have come up with, Scott, where you were telling the spec team how to migrate and what all needs to be done. If there is something like that which is already shared with the spec team, we can just add the items like keywords, vehicles, and profiles, which needs to be taken care by spec, and which once migrated, which we don't have as a platform team control over it. We can just execute it.
So cover keyword options. Yep. Yeah. I mean, starting an official guide sounds great. Cover keyword options would be great. Um, um, and yeah, options that need to be supported. Um, yep. Let's see. Did we? Let's see. Oh, so how do we handle vehicles? So okay. So what about vehicles for? I guess that should be. Um, I think like vehicles. Um, Need for vehicles, signature, test, handling, um, documentation, generation. Um, um, I don't know if vehicles need to be, like, I don't think any vehicles should be ignored. I think like, if there's any vehicles that are not, um, um, carried over, that would be yeah, that would definitely be a problem. Um, but for example, if we wanted if we wanted a standalone persistence TCK, that would be very difficult because of the vehicles. Um, um, so, but that's kind of like what the CDI TCK does. CDI does accomplish it, but it creates a lot. It would be difficult to basically we would be running we'd have all the EJB tests, which would be I guess it's not that bad. Um, but we just don't, we don't have a mapping for vehicles in the standalone test. I think it would probably be, um, you know, switch into just, vehicle specific test. Does that sound right? Test. So use, EJB as needed, servlets as needed for each of those. I think I guess that would be, yeah, I think we probably did talk about that or think about that. Um, that And it would be kind of like so kind of like inlining the vehicles into the tests into test directly, I guess. That's what we would be doing there essentially. Yeah. Um, so in the case of JAX-RS, I think that's servlet only. So that's kind of straightforward. I assume that's you got that handled already. Is there anything that we've outlined that so what for the JAX-RS TCK what's not handled yet? I guess.
Uh, for JAX-RS, we are not handling the vehicles, but I think it is only one vehicle when it is being run with the platform TCK. So I have to, I'm yet to look at that. Also, this web profile and full profile, we need to check which are the tests that are not run in full and web profile. So probably this tag, JUnit tags can be helpful. That is how we are handling the optional test currently. We have tagged some of the JAX-B test, which are in the JAX-RS TCK. So JUnit has this facility for creating tags for each test. So we can pass the appropriate parameter to skip any optional test or to add any test. So we can use the similar approach for web and full profile, but that is not implemented yet. No, this is not for the JAX-B TCK. This is for the
no.
yeah.
I mistyped.
Okay.
I
Okay.
Yeah, that was just a typo. I made a mistake.
Okay.
Um, um, only one. Oops. Only one vehicle is used. Yeah, which would be servlet, of course. And that's that would be fine. Good. Okay.
The optional tests are actually handled using tags currently. There are JAX-B related tests in JAX-RS. Those are handled by JUnit tags.
Nice. Okay. Let's see. Good. Should we? So another, another question I had for should we have these calls these early calls on um, you know instead of like monthly, should we just raise the need for the call and have it more frequently as needed? Um, if
I think
Yeah, Alvin, continue, please. Sorry.
yeah, I think it would be better if we can raise the frequency. Yes, monthly call. It is too short, I believe. Maybe once in 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks at least.
so,
Yeah, frequency, increased frequency will help us in syncing better and knowing what needs to be communicated to the spec team and which can be of higher importance for Jakarta EU10.
Okay. I'm just going to call this the EST, the my time zone, the 7 a.m. My time zone calls. Um, I'll say on an ad hoc basis. Oh, I should. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording. Let's see if I can see. Oh, stop share. I guess I could have done that before. And